I'm not reading Squirrel Girl. Porn. I've got porn stashed in here. That's what that is. Chunky Asses, Spring Edition, something like that. Uh, anyway, welcome to another Sidebar episode. Now, here's a thing. You may have noticed I'm wearing a rather splendid Dead Man Terry t-shirt. Check that out. Am I not glorious? Yes, I am. That's because recently I won Terry's 500 subscriber giveaway competition type thing because I'm very, very jammy. Now, just last week, big box of goodies arrived from Terry. The thing with Terry is when he does gifts, when he does giveaways, very, very generous. So let's have a look at what I got. Now, along with, I previously had some Dead Man Terry mugs off Terry, which are splendid for drinking tea from, let me tell you. This time we've got mouse mats, we've got pens. By the way, the quality of these pens, really nice to write with. Thanks for those, Tel. Now, apart from putting a bung in my PayPal account so I could buy some comics, which I did, Terry also fired a bunch of comics into the box. He doesn't do anything by halves. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them because there was loads. Terry popped in there was some Avengers and Spider-Man from kind of the last 10 years, which, again, while I wouldn't normally pick those up, I like to have a look at them when people include them as extras or stuff, because, I get to have a look at artists I'm maybe not familiar with or see what's been happening in the storylines. So that is very, very cool. Now, the ones that I have singled out, Terry popped in about half a dozen issues of Weird Western Tales, starring Scalp Hunter, from about 1979, 1980. It was really cool. I've never had these before, never seen them. So each one seems to be a sort of pretty much a one-shot story. They fairly crack along, very exciting. Full of language and attitude from 1870, which, I mean, let's face it, in the late 70s, early 80s wouldn't have been acceptable, never mind nowadays. But our sort of good bad guy, Scalp Hunter, pretty much sorts out the ne'er-do-wells in every single issue without batting an eyelid, which is pretty cool. A couple of funny things with these issues. One is that, bar one issue, someone seems to have really taken out all of the wraps that have adverts on them for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. So they're very nice and neat in terms of it's just story, but it's quite bizarre when it says continues on third page following, and it doesn't. It's on the next page. But that's fine. Didn't affect the stories. Also, one of them contains a letter from a Fred Hembeck, and there's an address supplied, so I don't think it was the Marvel bullpen on a wind-up. There we go. Fred Hembeck, live and in the flesh. There was a couple of independent titles in there as well. And one that I've picked out to share with you is this from 2021 regarding the matter of Oswald's body, which centers around the conspiracy theory that Lee Harvey Oswald's body is not the body that's in Lee Harvey Oswald's grave. And in this shady type, I don't know if he's a government figure yet or not, but he kind of acts like he is. He's putting together a team. He's basically going around recruiting these ne'er-do-wells for the purposes of nabbing someone who resembles Lee Harvey Oswald. Ooh. But the people that he's putting together in the team, it's not like the Dirty Dozen or anything. They're not tough action folk. They're kind of deadbeats and criminals and stuff. I really loved this. It's part 1 of 5, and it reads like a Coen Brothers movie. And I love the Coen Brothers, so I was totally into this. And I will be looking for parts 2 to 5. If you have all of the parts of this and you don't intend to keep them, we'll do a trade or something like that, because it was really awesome. So thank you for that, Terry. That was worth it. Now, there was a copy of X-Force 1. This is a second printing. This is from 1991. Now, I had these back in the day. I didn't get on with them. It was like that sort of time when you're absolutely choking on mutant titles. There was hundreds of the bloody things. And for me personally, I appreciate. Now, I reread this because I thought it's been a long time. Have a look; you might feel differently. I kind of didn't. The characters I'm not really that interested in. Now, the art, Rob Liefeld, I'm not a fan. I don't like his style of art. What I will say is I appreciate that the way everything's laid out and as an end-to-end read of a story of a comic book is very, very good. I can appreciate that at least. Didn't kind of do it for me, but it was kind of good to try that again after all of these years. Also included Spider-Man and the Human Torch, Marvel Team Up 147. Now, this is great. So only last week I did a bit in-depth piece on Marvel Team Up. Was it 15? I think it was, with a Ghost Rider. And we're saying how these are great sort of one-shot things. They're quite fun and stuff like that. No exception. So really, really pleased to have this in the collection. Happy to pick these up anytime. Now, in this one, this Black Abbott character, I think he was in the previous issue or in a recent issue of Amazing Spider-Man adjacent to this. So what's going on with him in this, I wouldn't sort of trouble you with. It's very good. It's good fun. It rolls along end to end. Good comic. Awesome stuff. Funny thing about this is a funny sort of time capsule, this comic, because there's some references in it. Now, the first one is that Spidey is cutting about in his blue and red outfit because he's just recently got out of the black symbiote outfit. And there's a page in here in which he sort of retells Reed Richards getting the symbiote thing off him, which is cool. He also kind of has, because he's mincing about with the Human Torch, has a sort of flashback or a memory of the time when Dr. Octopus had just kicked Spider-Man's arse and Spider-Man was feeling quite low, and the Human Torch came to Peter Parker's school and gave a speech, which Peter Parker found highly motivational. Now, that was Amazing Spider-Man 3, and just the other week I read Amazing Spider-Man issues 1 to 10. So that felt like another odd tie-in. Also in this, there's a point where the Human Torch gets sort of hypnotized and Spider-Man's trying to snap him out of it, and he's trying to wind him up and be annoying like he does, but nothing's working. So he goes there. He says to the Human Torch, it's a good thing that your sister lost her baby, because what sort of a life would you have had growing up with an uncle like you, kind of thing. And that does it. That enrages the Human Torch. They have a bit of a fight and then realise it was a bit extreme, but he was kind of doing it for the right reasons. But that reference to events in the Fantastic Four, reference to events with the black costume and stuff like that, and a little hark back to Amazing Spider-Man 3, all within this sort of one-off story. It was really cool. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for that, Terry. So, I mean, for that, you know, the merchy stuff, I got some more stickers and this absolutely splendid T-shirt, which I am rocking. Just thank you so much. You are a generous, generous man. Now, I've also been picking stuff up. I'll start off with a bit of Marvel UK stuff, some of which is for a bit of a sort of project thing I'm looking at doing. Here's a Spider-Man and Hulk Weekly. Now, that is from, when's that from? That's actually from 1980. So Spider-Man, Hulk Weekly had joined Spider-Man Weekly, and there it is. A little bit later on in this title, and this was a phase when I was a kid where I started to, you know, it was the first real change for me in the comic layout. That was kind of like, and it's all nice and glossy. It's got a lovely painted cover, which is cool. This is from 1983, and we've got, like, you know, color pages and stuff like that in it, which is cool. It's so thin. The comic felt really, really thin, which was a bit of a shame. But nonetheless, it's got Spider-Man, it's got Fantastic Four. There's even late 1984, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So presumably your Firestar and whoever else is maybe in this. I don't know. Oh no, it doesn't look like it. It's still old reprints and the original X-Men. Going back a little bit further, 1979 Spider-Man comic with a nice Moon Knight cover. Again, I've been using that for a project. That one's got so many. It's quite thin as well, but it's got 2 3 page stories from like Spider-Man, Nova, the Vision, the Avengers, Fantastic Four. There's quite a lot in that. Going back even further, 1974, the Avengers Weekly. That's number 42. That's from 1974. Lovely condition, this. Very glossy, Master of Kung Fu on the cover, and it also has Doctor Strange within. And that one is pretty much black and white all the way through. There we go. So a pile of them. Once I've done with the project, I'll be keeping some of those, but when I've done with the project, there'll be quite a few of those I'll be passing on, particularly to some of my chums in the States who very much like these things. But see, if you're in the States or Canada and you're looking for like Marvel UK stuff, I've seen especially recently, quite a lot on eBay being sold by US sellers at insane prices. Like, so some of the really key issues are ones with very, very notable covers, would understandably be a bit more, but I'm talking about really, really, really ridiculously silly prices. And if you're particularly after anything like that, give us a shout and I'll be happy to try and help. Because I'm talking about a comic I'd pay maybe $10 for here, and they're asking $70, $80, and I'm seeing quite a lot of it. So really surprised. Anyway, speaking of the US, I bought some US stuff as well. First one up is the Pacific Comics Corbin Special from 1984, The Fall of the House of Usher. I love Richard Corbin stuff. I've got the Twisted Tales, the whole of the first series, and this one, which I can't show you all of because it contains bits and pieces of people that you really shouldn't be seeing on the screen. It's got this lovely, the colours are beautiful, but this lovely sort of almost watery, misty, slightly smudgy in places art, with the slightly cartoony elements of some of the facial features. It's pretty gorgeous, and I enjoyed this take on it. I think it's okay to show these pages. So really lovely stuff. Not too expensive. I'm sure it would have been cheaper in the States, but it wasn't too expensive for a pickup from here. So that was cool. I also got a DC comic, the Star Spangled War Stories number 177. That is from 1974. And it's a train cover. Absolutely splendid, that glorious cover. It's about an 8.0. This book's really nice condition. I'm absolutely stoked to get that for the train collection. And there is a train collection now. Part of the reorganization recently, I made a little space and took out the train books. I could only find 3 in my collection. There might be 1 or 2 more hiding somewhere that I've missed. So I've put them together in a little train collection. I've picked this beauty up, and I've got a couple more on the way. Now, there is criteria for train covers. Maybe save that for another episode, but there is criteria. But thanks to everyone who's been sending me pictures of, what about this one? What about this one? Which is really, really cool, because I've seen some I hadn't seen before. But some others have gone, well, do you know what? Actually, it is a good train cover, but it's not quite fitting in with what I want. That's for later on. I read this book. It's bloody dreadful. And I don't mean like, oh, it's a harrowing war story. I mean, it's just not good. And there's no point me doing in my humble opinion, I think, and, subjectively, it's not my style of blah, blah, blah. It's just not good. It's by Robbins Barr, who did the cover, and Thorne, I think Frank Thorne, did the art within. But no, it's all This one's all about the cover, and that's okay. It's beautiful, and I love it. Coming back to Marvel UK stuff, I picked up this Captain Britain Weekly issue 1. Now, I've had a few copies of this before, and they've primarily been I've been picking them up for other people, or back in the day picking them up with the intent of, trading them on or upgrading or stuff like that. This one I had no intention of picking up, but I was doing a bit of a deal with a guy I've done a deal with before in order to get some books, and I was keen for him to let go of a couple of books he wasn't keen to let go of, and him getting me to agree to take this was part of the deal. And initially I was kind of like, now this one doesn't have the mask, so it's not like stupid prices, but it's still stupid price that gets asked for these. And I wasn't too keen on the price he was asking for it either. However, I had a look over it. The remarkable thing is the front of this and the back, they're ever so slightly discolored, I think, from having other comics sitting on top of them. So they just like feel tiny bit darker than they might. But the inside, the pages are gorgeous. There's a little bit of creasing along the top of the cover and a little bit of wear on the spine, but really nothing. Remarkably, there's no writing on it. It was common for UK newsagents to write the name or address of the recipient on for the paper girl or paper boy to deliver. None of that here. And even more so, the puzzle page inside, you quite often see them. They've either been inked, or they've been penciled, or they've been penciled and someone's tried to erase the pencil. And on this kind of soft newsprint, that doesn't tend to work out too well. So don't do that, kids. But this one's completely untouched. And you'll see more of that when we have a deeper dive.
Now, for any kid in the UK in the 1970s who liked superheroes and comics, it must have been tremendously exciting, not just to see a new character, but in a brand new comic, produced in Britain and only distributed there. And what a start they made with the cover as well. It's action-packed, it's vibrant, it's colourful, Captain Britain going full at it, it's got a great trade dress. Yeah, I think I'd have been excited by this as well. And Marvel didn't skimp on the creative talent either. Chris Claremont doing the writing, art by Herb Trimpe and Fred Kida, and the talented Marie Severin providing the colours. The story starts with Captain Britain in the middle of a battle against some armoured dudes. Chief among them is this knight-type guy, who not only has a magnificent plumage, but has an equivalent amount of bad guy dialogue at the ready. Really interesting in the next couple of panels is that while the reader would have been trying to work out who is Captain Britain, what are his powers, what can he actually do, Captain Britain appears to be thinking exactly the same thing. He's not sure how he's battling these guys, he just knows that he is. Furthermore, when it comes to stabbing a big guy in the toe with a big pointy stick, he suddenly announces that his name's Captain Britain, and he's not even sure where that came from. I think we need a flashback. So here we are at the Darkmoor Research Centre, a nuclear complex half hidden on a lonely moor. Not only that, but it says the moor was a place of fairy rings and the old gods and sprites and such forth, minced about with ancient powers. So all that kind of stuff going on. Now here we meet Dr. Travis, who's in charge of the whole shebang, and his young student apprentice, the wavy-haired pipe-smoking Brian Braddock. And as Dr. Travis is musing to Brian on the fact that people would kill to learn about what they've researched and the secrets they have there, a strange craft is approaching the facility. Suddenly everything goes full Kirby, as a big machine blasts through the wall of the facility, piloted by one Joshua Strag, also known as the Reaver, and also a bit of a dick. Now Strag not only wants to take over the facility, he wants to blow big holes in the wall as well. I told you he was the dick. Now poor old Dr. Travis takes a stun blast to the chest, which is his own fault for hanging about chatting. Meanwhile, Brian, showing real heroic chops, does a runner and heads for the hole in the wall trying to escape. but have the bad guys seen him? Yes, this properly gnarly Kirby-esque dude shouts that everyone needs to stop him because if that boy escapes with the truth, well, it won't end well. Brian makes good his escape on a motorbike, but the bad guys lift up their hovercraft thing and blind him as he heads perilously towards the edge of a cliff. Look out, Brian! But alas, Brian, chatting to himself, hurtles over the edge of the cliff, exploding into flames at the bottom. Crawling from the wreckage and broken inside, Brian starts to hear the ethereal, mystical, poetic voice of a woman. Stay off the mushrooms, Brian. She tells him he's in Siege Perilous. Strange name for a village and not one that was on his sat-nav. If that wasn't enough, a ghostly apparition of an old dude appears, who tells him he's in the circle of power and he must choose between the amulet or the sword. And that's the end of the story for this week. What? Now, on another page, we have a personalised message from Stan Lee telling us that this had to happen because a lot of small British people demanded it. Hurrah! Now, for anyone that thinks it was only kids in the US and perhaps Canada that got adverts promising boxes full, packed to the brim with amazingly detailed toy soldiers and vehicles, and you could act out the exact diorama sketched on the outside cover of said box and adverts, which all turned out to be terribly disappointing because they were utterly crap. Well, we had the same thing in the UK. Meanwhile, we also had a panel of fun jokes advertised, no sea monkeys though. And of course we had a complete stamp collector's outfit because it's Britain. Meanwhile, another advert tells us Stan Lee will be making a personal appearance at a London shop celebrating the release of Bring On the Bad Guys. Now, once you'd worked out how to spend all your pocket money on a pile of crap, it was back to the story action with this black and white reprint of Fantastic Four issue 110. This was an interesting choice with a story by Stan Lee and art by John Buscema. And I wonder if they chose it for these panels. This magnificent black and white photorealistic image makes one of the splash pages. And I've added in one of the panels as well, this brilliant transformation of Ben Grimm into the Thing, which really stands out in black and white. Yeah, I like this. Next up, some in-house advertising, with this page showing what else is on offer from Marvel UK this week. Super Spider-Man, Planet of the Apes and Dracula Lives, The Titans, Mighty World of Marvel featuring the Hulk and the Avengers, and also a placeholder for next week's Captain Britain issue, which came with a crappy boomerang. Adjacent to that is the fun page, with Amaze, how many things can you identify in the jumbled up picture, and how many four-letter words can you make from the word fantastic? Let's leave that there, shall we? Back to the story action now. Full colour for the magnificent Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., reprinted, I believe, from issue 159 of Strange Tales. Magnificent. And no Marvel UK publication would be complete without pin-ups. Here we're offered the magnificent Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Jim Steranko and a fantastic rendition of our titular hero, Captain Britain, by Herb Trimpe.
So in summary, I think definitely had I been in the UK and been a comic collecting or superhero comic collecting youngster at the time, I'd have been tremendously excited by this. After reading the exploits of a sort of US heroes, having a sort of a British one made and produced in the UK, or UK comic, absolutely brilliant. I did initially think it was a bit mean they only provided a few pages of the Captain Britain story, and I thought that must have been frustrating for kids. But then again, they didn't have to wait a whole month for the next issue because it would be out the very next week, which isn't too bad at all. I think this is a tremendous production. I think the stuff in it, from the full-colour pin-ups, the puzzles and competitions, which fortunately weren't filled in this copy, to the personalised message from Stan, I think it was a fantastic job by the production team at Marvel UK. What did you think of it? Now, this coming week on People with Issues, I'm finally getting to share with you the recording I did with my good friend Chris Parker from upstate New York. We had to abandon the first one a few weeks ago because of technical issues. That happens. So it's great to have a second go at it and share some of Chris's comic collecting experiences and look at some great books. So I do hope you enjoy that. Thank you very much for tuning in this week, and until next time, stay groovy.